Good morning, everyone. Oh my gosh, let's get rid of the flag. Hold on just a second. Housekeeping. Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to Coffee and Headlines, our morning broadcast where we examine headlines from our city, from our state, from our country, and we try to bring out the best and most interesting ones here so we can learn more about our way of life, our history, our culture, how we think, how we look, how we feel. What we eat and how we enjoy it. We combine that with everything that we can get our hands on that has to do with what's going on in Puerto Vallarta that can hopefully improve our lives here as a community of English-speaking locals. Locals being those of us that live here year-round, or those of you that feel like you are locals at heart. That's what we do. And today is Friday, 17. Thank God it's Friday. And of course, for a change, look who's joining me. There she is, my beautiful assistant, Luna. Hey, Luna. Luna. Fine, she's busy looking at whatever. Luna is joining me to keep us company today as we go through the news. We don't have a lot of news, but we have an interesting broadcast, I hope. We have a few bits of news. Then we are going to talk about, I was approached by a comedy troupe from abroad that wants to come to Puerto Vallarta, and they wanted to get an interview, and an interesting conversation followed. And we're going to decide together whether we will interview them or not. I will make a case for both interviewing them and not interviewing them, and then you will help us decide whether we get up close and personal with this comedy troupe that is coming from abroad. And last but not least, of course, we have our neighborhood exploration. Today, we get to explore Colonia Díaz Ordaz, which is right next to Plaza Caracol and Colonia Versalles. We get to find out what is going on there, whether we should consider walking it, exploring it, living in it, and so forth and so on. So that's what we have for today. If this is the first time that you're joining us, as you know, we love to say hello to all newcomers, and you can help us out by writing the word new in your comments. And that way we will know that you're new. We'll give you a nice little welcome. And if you have any specific questions or things that are important, like James has done here, he's added a Q at the beginning of his question, and that helps a lot to tell the difference between whether you are chatting among yourselves or you actually are hoping for Luna to react to your remarks. So we'll get to your question in a second, James. But first, we'll go through our news as always, and then we'll go through the rest of the broadcast. Finally, we'll get to our chit chat. So hold on, here we go. Aha, so there we are. By the time this broadcast is over, well, by now actually, Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador and U.S. President Joe Biden will have held a video conference to discuss climate change. The conversation takes place only one day after Mexican President López Obrador sent a letter to President Biden about ending the embargo between the United States and Cuba. It is worth noting that Miguel Díaz-Canel, president of Cuba, along with his wife, well, I assume it was his wife, there was a woman there, they were President López Obrador's special guests during Mexico's Independence Day celebrations. We hope that the conversation between our president and the president of the United States was productive, and I am sure we'll have much more to report about this in the coming days. Boom, bim, boom, bam, boom. The federal government has produced a guide with recommendations for an environmentally responsible return to tourism and ecotourism in beach destinations in Mexico. The guide is aimed at both tourism service providers and local authorities, empowering them to sanction tourists with fines in case they don't abide by local sanitary guidelines. The guide also makes sensible recommendations on how to deal with the trash and other factors that affect our environment. It is published in Spanish, of course, and I will leave you the link to this document for those that are involved in the tourism industry so that you can download it and examine it at your leisure. Again, this is a document prepared by the federal government, and it is available online. I will share the link. And now let's talk briefly about the highway to Mascota and San Sebastian. With all the recent rains, it's been touch and go with Highway 544 to these destinations. It is fairly common for there to be landslides on the highway this time of year. But this year in particular, we seem to be getting quite a few of them. Between Tuesday and today, there were 3 or 4 landslides that authorities have managed to clear along this highway. And as of this morning, the highway is open, but anyone heading in that general direction should exercise caution. And if you're heading into San Sebastián del Oeste for the weekend or something, checking into the place where you're going to stay or people you may know will help a great deal, because the worst thing that can happen is to be along the way and then to get to a point in which you cannot continue along the road. So we try to keep our eye on this, and we always try to report this so that we can, of course, take the necessary precautions as we move about. Let us switch over to the weather and take it from there. I'm not saying it's raining right now, but there are people saying that it is, says our snarky carrot weather this morning. I see that we are enjoying a temperature of 27 degrees Celsius, feels like 34, humidity again 100%. So make sure you're very well hydrated if you're going out and about. Our temperature in Fahrenheit degrees is 81, and we can expect this forecast for today: rain starting in the afternoon with light and variable winds. High temperature of 31, low temperature of 24. Tomorrow, Saturday, we will have rain and humidity throughout the day with a high temperature of 30, low temperature of 23. And on Sunday, possible light rain in the evening with a high temperature of 30 and a low temperature of 22. And there we have it. So, now, I am always fascinated by topics that topics that showcase the difference or the contrast between English-speaking locals and English-speaking tourists. Sometimes this is highlighted in a good way. Sometimes it is in a not so good way. But it is clearly a fact that there are enough of us, enough of you actually, full-time English-speaking locals in the Bay, that your needs, wants, likes, dislikes, beliefs are not necessarily the same as those of your English-speaking counterpart that come here for short vacations. We have proven this time and again. It is also something that we've discussed, the fact that the performances available at the local venues based on your own answers, are not necessarily the kind of performances that you would like to see. And by you, I mean you, local English speaking uh, Puerto Vallarta residents. So I was approached by a comedy troupe from abroad, and they said, "Well, we're coming to Puerto Vallarta. We're going to be performing in Puerto Vallarta. We were hoping for an interview." And of course, my first reaction was, well, they're coming to a venue that caters primarily to tourists, and we are locals. And is this something that the audience, meaning you, are going to be interested in? And I tried to explain this to the person that I was talking to. And of course, I we started conversing, and this particular person had some fascinating points to make that pushed my good buttons. And I was clear to explain, pushing good buttons is great because it makes you think, it makes you reflect about this, that, and the other. And one of the first things that this person says to me was, and I'm going to read because I want to quote. To clarify, we are really hoping to engage with the local English speaking community as well. And I thought to myself, I have met a lot of English speaking performers that say they want to engage with us locals. But what often happens, and feel free to throw in your 2 cents at any time, is that they come and perform in venues that are designed or whose goal is to cater to tourists for the most part. So a lot of times, foreign performers wishing to engage with locals and expressing that intention ends up being nothing more than just an intention. And then I talked a little bit about the fact that there's well, actually, before I say that, this particular person told me, that they conducted their research. They went around and they went to the venues, and what they saw is, let's see, where is this? We went to all the main theaters that we thought might be a good fit for us. It seemed that the majority of the audience were expat, the bad word, expat Canadian and Americans. We predominantly saw drag shows and music tributes. And I explained to this person, well, there's 35,000 English speaking locals living in the Bay. If 35,000 people were really that interested in drag shows, then maybe RuPaul would move his drag conventions to Puerto Vallarta. Where is the drum? Bad timing, but there it is. Long story short, here's the conundrum. We continue to have these performers that think, well, we're going to come down and we're going to perform for English speaking people, and the price point will be less than what they would pay north of the border. But this price point, number one, ends up not necessarily being aligned with the price point of a local who is earning English-speaking local who is earning money in Mexican pesos. I mean, it's easy to say, well, we're going to charge $20, but $20 in the United States is one thing, or in Canada, $20 in Mexico is a different story, even for English-speaking folk from Canada or from the United States. I also explained to this person that in the past, you have not been all that interested in hearing about performers and performances going on at these venues. But of course, Coffee and Headlines is not one adventure about shutting doors on people's faces. We want people that come here and want to start performing here to get a good impression of who we really are. It is unfortunate, and I'm going to speak directly to the person that I was talking to right now. It is unfortunate that you come here and the only perception that you get is what is explained to you by the venues. The venues, they don't mind showing drag shows day after day after day after day because they're catering to people that are here for a week and then they go away. But for those of us that live here year round, don't think for a moment that all we're interested in is drag shows and tribute shows. Drag shows and tribute shows make money for the venues that offer them, and they may or may not be interested in in promoting that among the local population, which brings me to another point. And this is also aimed directly at this particular person that I'm sure is watching after the conversation we had this morning. If you think that the venues are going to go an extra mile, actually an extra inch, to promote their stuff outside of the tourism zone, you are sorely mistaken. If you want to appeal to the local English-speaking population, you may want to rethink your advertising strategy, and you may want to invest some of your own budget in making sure that you reach out to the English-speaking locals and not the tourist population. So that is my 2 cents of what is going on. I would like more than anything else to see new types of English-speaking and Spanish-speaking performances in town. So bottom line is, if you have any thoughts about what I've been talking about, please write it in your comments. Number 2, the one morning in which I wanted to do a poll, Facebook again is playing with me and it's not allowing me to do a poll. But my bottom line, or Luna's bottom line here at Coffee and Headlines, is, do we interview this Canadian troupe or not? So do me a huge favor and just write comedy yes or comedy no in your comments. If the number of yeses win, we will interview these people and see what they're about. If not, I did mention to them that if they send us a nice little press release, we will be so very happy to mention the performance once it happens. But another thing that is part of the way we run Coffee and Headlines is we don't recommend shows that we don't know anything about. So there you go. I mean, I would be curious to see what the performance is like, and then based on that, we would be glad to recommend it. So I see a no, I see a yes, I see all kinds of things, and I'm invested in this story now. I love it, Kelly. You got where I wanted to go. I wanted you guys to get invested in this story because ultimately, keep something in mind. Venues are going to continue to program they program because we are not speaking out and saying we would like to see other things too. Personally, the idea of seeing comedy in town is really fascinating. It's a little scary because I've seen a lot of English comedy that makes fun of Mexicans, and I don't like that. But that's just my personal opinion. Anyhow, I am going to tally your yeses and your nos. And I am so sorry you are coming in late, Alain, because this is right up your alley. It has everything to do with what the venues program and for whom and at what price and so forth and so on. So that's the end of that. We'll come back to look at all these comments later on. But now is a good time to switch over to our neighborhood profile. Let me set this up. And we'll come back and take a look at your comments in a second. Today, we are exploring Colonia Díaz Ordaz. We don't have a supercut to share, but we do have a lot of show and tell, and it starts right here. Colonia Díaz Ordaz is this little colonia that is sandwiched right next to the main avenue, Medina Asensio. It's right next to Colonia Versalles. It's right next to Plaza Caracol, and it would seem that it is a dream colonia, and we'll find out whether it is or not as we go on. Flanked on the Medina Asensio side, you can benefit from all the wonderful businesses that are in that general neck of the woods. There's Office Depot, and there's all kinds of stores. Then you're very, very, very close to the beach. We've explored 2 beach accesses in that general vicinity in the past. Then moving north, the colonia is flanked by Plaza Caracol. And of course, Plaza Caracol is a ginormous shopping center. So it is good to have the big stores and the movie theater and so forth and so on nearby. There's Plaza Caracol. We, of course, know Plaza Caracol. And of course, across from Plaza Caracol, there is this whole block of medical offices. Just about every medical doctor visit that I've needed in the last 5 to 7 years has been in these buildings. So if you're concerned about being close to your doctor and physicians, you can certainly think this is an asset for the neighborhood. Not far from here, there is a Farmacia Guadalajara that is open 24 hours. This is one of two Farmacia Guadalajaras in one tiny colonia. How crazy is that? Then moving to the northern part of the colonia is flanked by Avenida Fluvial Vallarta, which is wonderful because right next to Avenida Fluvial Vallarta, we have all the greenery that is still available in the parts of Fluvial Vallarta that have not been developed. So if you enjoy walking, if you enjoy going out on your bicycle or jogging, there's a lot of peaceful, tranquil streets that are near you. And one other feature about this colonia is that it is completely flat, and a lot of it is very wheelchair friendly. Let's move on. There's a lot of businesses, there's a lot of shopping, there's a lot of restaurants along Avenida Fluvial Vallarta. And again, Fluvial Vallarta has yet another Farmacia Guadalajara in the same colonia. So there is that advantage. If you need to go shopping, if you need to go eat, there's convenience stores, there's a shopping center, so forth and so on. And the final side of the colonia is this long street. Abre is the name of the street, which is primarily a residential street. There are a lot of smaller type older condo buildings like this and private homes. Although, as we know, condos are coming to this general part of the city as well, and we're starting to see these other big lumps of concrete arrive. A curious thing about this colonia is where the bus depot is for the very economic and quite painterly and exciting bus company that goes up to Mascota into Guadalajara, but through the mountain road. If you want to get to Mascota by bus, the bus depot is here and not at the bus terminal near the airport. And this is all contained within the same colonia. A lot of the streets in the colonia are starting to get the makeover recently by the city. The city is taking away all these cobblestone roads and finally replacing them with a little bit more civilized offerings. We showed this photograph not too long ago, and this photograph shows what is going to clearly become a bicycle path along this one street, and this will connect all the way to Fluvial. So again, there's a lot of development going on in Colonia Díaz Ordaz right now. Now, when it comes to eating and dining out, we have mentioned a couple of restaurants in our Versalles for Foodies free map, and this is a resource that you should know about. If you don't know about it, then this is something that you can get, and I'll give you the link where you can enjoy this from your cell phone or your tablet. And this is a guide with over 30 now. There are over 30 essential restaurants and eateries in Colonia Versalles and surrounding colonias such as Díaz Ordaz. We've mentioned specifically La Romántica, which is on Avenida Fluvial Vallarta. We've mentioned Pozolitlán, a pozole place, and there are many others that we haven't gotten to just yet. And speaking of food, I mean, one of the big bonuses about this colonia that you will not find anywhere else in Puerto Vallarta is this one block that has 6 or 7 typical cenadurias or family restaurants where you can eat Mexican food very economically. We've talked about this block. We've walked it in a past walking tour. So it is a great colonia to live in if you're looking for a colonia that has a little bit of everything. And its closeness to Versalles, like my own colonia, which is on the other side of Versalles, gives you access to all kinds of stuff. If I can think of one thing that would be a downer, well, not even a downer to this colonia, is that Colonia Díaz Ordaz does not necessarily have much of a personality of its own. And that's not the end of the world. It's not a deal breaker. There are other colonias that don't have the cachet that Emiliano Zapata has or Versalles now has. But it is a colonia where you can still find cute little homes and apartments to live. Prices are bound to increase because of the fact that it's becoming better known. And that's pretty much what we have to share about Colonia Díaz Ordaz. I find myself walking in this neighborhood quite a bit. The only reason why we don't have a supercut is because I wanted to go out yesterday, and yesterday was just a gloomy day. But I had enough photographs from past walks to tell a good story, we hope. Next week, a week from today, we get to explore Colonia El Cerro, which looks quite desolate and innocent in this map because this is just the streets, but we know that El Cerro is just this labyrinth of paths and passages and old homes and new homes and buildings that have spectacular views of the city. But of course, this is all the way up in the hills, so one needs to have a fair amount of stamina to live here and endure the constant climbing. We have friends that live up there, so we will be discussing Colonia El Cerro a week from today. And that is our broadcast for today. Let us very quickly go back and take a look at some of your comments. I always look forward to these because there's always some great learning from you. And let's see, we start with our dear Raymond, who says it's a fabulous day in Colonia Versalles. Raymond, as you know, is a resident baker. He has a wonderful bakery just down the street called Artisan Bakery, and it is a good thing to see. Let's see what we have. Ooh, Friday night dates. I love it. I love it. I may go to the movies today, actually. I'm really intrigued by that Chinese American film that is being a huge blockbuster elsewhere in the world. I may be able to persuade one of my comrades into going to the movies today. Let's see, was one heck of a rainstorm last night around all of Banderas Bay. Yes, we had a fair amount of rain. Not as bad as in other days, but rain here in Banderas Bay is really funny. You could walk 10 blocks and it can be completely different. Back to your question, James. I'm wondering how things are in Emiliano Zapata since the flood. Are things getting back to normal? How is it getting around? I'll be back in December. You can get around just fine. Things are fine. It is that very specific section near the Quale River that is very much affected. And of course, it will take some time for private homes, businesses, and infrastructure to come back to normal. But don't think for a second that your experience in Puerto Vallarta will be less memorable because of what went on, unless, of course, you had specific plans to visit some of the businesses that were affected. A lot can happen between now and December for these particular locations, and hopefully they will continue to head towards a speedy recovery. La li la li la la. This is, I don't understand this. There might be a typo here, but it says, yesterday I had brained my personal residency status card. Benny, if you got it, then congratulations. I don't know what you mean by brained. I suppose that was a typo. Let's see. Yay! Liz also just got confirmation of the deed to her condo, and maybe you can plan to travel. Wonderful. Inquiring about the continued heavy rains impact on Nora recovery for Quale River residents. Well, I think I just addressed this, Lisa. It's going to take some time. It's going to take some time, just with, like as it takes time with natural events. And of course, we have to remind ourselves that the hurricane season is not over, the rain season is not over, but we keep our fingers crossed that it will not get as bad as it has been. However, caution is a good thing. Okay. Thank you for clarifying, Benny. My first attempt right to permanent residency was achieved yesterday. Congratulations. I am very happy for you. Dave drove to Moro Paraíso yesterday. That was a trip and a half. Road is passable, but yikes, it ain't easy. I don't know how your walking is, Dave. I find that walking to Moro Paraíso is a great thing to do. Um, and maybe it's something that you can or would like to do, maybe not. But yeah, that road is also one that is taking some time to fix and will take some time. But we wish all the businesses that are out there the best through that process. Which weather app do you use? We use Carrot app. It is available for Mac, iPhone, iPad, and the works. Let's see. Logan says, good to know. We were hoping to walk up there this Sunday and then be driven back. That is correct. This Sunday, if all goes well, we will walk to Moro Paraíso and get shit-faced. No, not shit-faced, just slightly inebriated. There you go. Wow, another question about Carrot Weather. Carrot Weather available on the App Store for Apple and for iOS. Let's see what else we have. Now we get into some comments about shows. Sounds like Teatro Vallarta overpriced tourist money grab. In my honest opinion, depends on the venue. If only in Emiliano Zapata, then no interest. There you go. Then another one from James. In my honest opinion, the shows that cater to tourists are repetitive, but there is some local programming that is unique that I found out about from Coffee and Headlines and other sources that is worth seeking, like what they do at the Cultural Center on the Isla Cuale. Thank you. There are yeses and nos for the interview. We will tally those later on. Catherine says, can we have more info about the troupe? I chose to keep the name of the troupe silent, and so because I want to make sure that there is no impression that we're throwing pies at them. Quite the contrary. You know, it is so great when any performer of any type it becomes interested in Puerto Vallarta. It is unfortunate, however, that being a tourism-driven destination, performers and venues are so easily seduced by what works for this market, and not so much for those of us that live here year around. More yeses and more nos. More yeses and more nos. And I can already tell there are more yeses than nos. Oh no, well, there are more nos. Hold on. I believe my opinion, if they are willing to make the venues affordable to the locals, then yes. And yes, Claude, I hear you. There is this misconception that just because there are folks living here that speak English that are from countries up north, these folks, you have the budget to go out and pay the amount of money that tourists pay for tickets. Yes, but then you decide if it has value. I have already envisioned the interview, Ronald. It's not going to be an interview that I would like to conduct online. I would like to meet with these very nice people once they get here, because apparently they're going to come here regardless, and maybe invite them to go on a walking tour with me. And if they say that they're an improv tour, well, then maybe they can improvise comedy as we're walking, and that way we get to find out if they're worth the price of admission or not. More yeses and more nos. More yeses and more nos. Part of me would love the energy of a comedy group, but if it turns into an infomercial, no. Again, Angelo, we are not going to interview any performer without actually having had the pleasure of enjoying their work, just because we don't know necessarily if they're good or not, even when they say in paper that they are. More yeses and more nos. Liz nailed it. Can't recommend without knowing about the performance. I understand. Lori nails it as well. I would like to see something new. It will be actually fascinating to see how a comedy troupe does in Puerto Vallarta, because we don't get a lot of that. And somebody commented just now, we all need a good laugh. Jenny asks, are there currently any comedy troupes in Puerto Vallarta? Not comedy troupes per se. There are funny drag shows, and there are people that put together funny plays, mostly in Spanish. A lot of the plays that are put together by local Spanish troupes are funny in nature, although not necessarily. Um, let's see what else we have. Let's see what else. We have comments about the neighborhood. Thank you very much. Our dermatologist is located in that area of medical building, says Den. Um, Ramona chimes in on the whole issue of ethnic jokes. I am not. I don't like it when they make fun of any ethnic group. Let's stay funny, not hateful. Love you, Paco. Love you back, Ramona. Thank you very much for that. Um, Fair enough. Shout out to the security guard outside of the hospital across from Plaza Caracol. Super friendly, kind, gentle soul. Whoever you are, security guard, I hope you get a lot of tacos this weekend. And speaking of tacos, one of the best taco stands I've been to in town is the car wash lot next to Oxo at Vienna and Nisa. Katrina, you nailed it. I've been to that taco stand and they are super awesome. In fact, they are on my list for Taco Tuesday. Look at me like grin stupidly when you say that. I totally want to go check them out again and tell you more about that. Let's see what else we have. Where is the bus terminal? Ay, 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 ay. I will give you. Let's, Yama, hold on just a second. Okay, if we have to go there, let's go there. I will mention it in the show notes, James, but it would be very easy for you to Google it. It's not difficult to find. This is a small colonia. Let's see what else. Quick question. I'm moving to Puerto Vallarta next year. Well, that alone deserves an applause. And bringing my cat with me, and as you have your beautiful cat Luna, do you recommend a good vet there that you personally use? Thank you so much. My vet is no longer in town, so I don't have a vet that I can recommend presently, but I am sure. And Luna has been fine. She hasn't needed a checkup. Oh, she's gone now. She's gone after she's drinking all the Baileys, not me. I'm hoping that other folks will make recommendations of cat veterinarians because Luna is due for some pricking. So Sheil, congratulations on your move next year. And I am sure that between now and the time that you get here, we will have a good recommendation for you. Thank you for watching Coffee and Headlines. Coffee and Headlines is designed for folks like you who may not necessarily be English-speaking locals just yet, but you can save a lot of headaches and a lot of time and money by learning about how we actually live here in town. What is the name of the street with the various senaduria? I think it's Calle Roma. I could be wrong. And we did a walking tour about this not too long ago, Dave. I suggest you look in the website and you will find the Senaduria walk there. Let's see what else we have. Ooh, we have a bunch of people living in El Cerro. That's wonderful. Question, do you know anything about the protests going on now in Bahia de Banderas? Unfortunately, I don't. And I didn't see any headlines to that effect. I'm sure that if it's something significant, it'll show up in the headlines tomorrow. Thank you very much for that. Bus terminal is behind the Cayo Blanco next to the pizza place. This is true. Thank you for that, Dave. And Wolf's Veterinary is the best I have found in your area, Paco. I am under the impression that Wolf's only sees dogs. I could be wrong, Suzanne, but there you go. I am wrong. Jill says Wolf's, I believe in Colonia, we just visited today. We take our cats there. Thank you very much for that. That's definitely something that I am going to explore. And this, of course, brings us to the end of our broadcast. As always, I hope you found something useful here, something to make you laugh, something to make you think, something to make you curious and go explore. And that's it. If you would like to make sure that you do your share to ensure that Coffee and Headlines continues, consider sharing a coffee with us or consider a membership. This helps us a lot in making sure that we can be around to provide you with content on a regular basis. Tomorrow is Saturday, and Saturday should be another fun day. Between now and then, please stay kind, stay healthy, stay happy, stay laughing, of course, and eat a lot of tacos and stay in touch. Have a good day.